You're listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. It would greatly benefit the show.
Welcome to MBwTFB with the Farx brothers. I'm Kyle.
I'm Kirk.
And we're here with Adam Colt. Adam, do you, we always ask multi-hyphenates as yourself. I think of you as a important child actor on the Minnesota theater scene at one point, the 70s. I think of you as a musician in the 80s and 90s, and now a festival director throughout the past 16 years, right?
Correct.
So which thing would you like to be introduced as first?
Bigfoot researcher.
That's right. Sony did just buy Alamo. What are trends you've seen over the past 1 or 2 years with running a independent festival in the Upper Midwest?
It's been pretty much the same for us. We had a rough year during COVID, but it was at the end of our season, so the only thing we had to cancel was the award show. So we did that virtually, and that was a little tricky. But we've never had to cancel a screening for Z-Fest. It just worked out perfectly that way for us.
That would have been the first year that JK Productions got to go up and accept awards after being nominated the previous 2 years multiple times. So that's very nice. But that I was like, finally, we did it. We're here, and I'm in a hotel room with my wife watching this on.
Yeah. Yeah.
She gave birth. I shouldn't say it like that because if there's ever another international health issue like that and everyone's stuck at home,
Pandemic?
If there's another pandemic that kills 0.4% of the population, and more so on the upper age bracket, it helps to have just had a baby. And I didn't do it; my wife did the month before COVID started. Wow. So we turned in a movie. Then my wife had a baby, and then there was the screening and awards. It was great. Well, the awards virtually, so my child saw the awards
from your arms.
But you were able to bounce back the next 2 years, and I've heard the theory that more people made movies because there were pent up emotions and ideas after that.
I would think so, yeah, and it's really weird because every year there is. I don't know how to explain this, but there's some weird synergy in the air. And last year we had a ton of black and white films, and the year before, it was, and it started years ago because it was let's tie a girl up and put her in the basement. And okay, we got 15 of those films this year. It was really weird. Even The Wish last year, you know what I'm saying? It was black and white. A lot of the films were black and white last year. And then
that was Ryan Beckin's movie, just so he gets his flowers.
There you go. Yeah, are you going to have, has Beckin been on?
Come on. Adam Beckin was on 3 or 4 series ago.
Yeah,
nice.
So.
Yeah, he did Coppola's movies from 1983.
Perfect.
Yes. Awesome. Do you remember both of The Outsiders and Rumblefish?
Yes.
You do, because you were a young lad at that time.
Yes, and you were going to ask a question about my acting.
Yes.
You said Matt Damon in your question.
It was Matt Dillon.
It's Matt Dillon.
You said Matt Damon on Alan's podcast, and you said Matt Dillon on Alex's podcast. Okay. So I just, this is true journalism right here.
There you go. Yeah, so the movie was called My Bodyguard. It was put out in 1980. And I didn't audition with Matt Dillon. He had already been cast for the movie.
Okay.
But they said, you're doing a movie with Matt Dillon. And I made callbacks, 3 or 4 callbacks. So I was this close to being the kid. Chris Makepeace got the Clifford, the lead role, but I was auditioning for the lead role in that movie.
Whoa! And this is before your mom had your younger sibling, and you had to stop acting. Yes. Yeah, and then you turned to music, which I think is an interesting part of the overall Adam Colt origin story. Because you were probably a very technical actor is the thing that I'm assuming about you.
I don't know. I remember being becoming the character, becoming fully engrossed in the character. And I can't do that now. And I have no idea how I got to that point. But for me, it was very instinctive and natural to do that. And now it's I can't even fathom becoming a character.
Have you tried to act in anything?
I am so bad.
Why do you say that?
Because I can't, I don't find the character.
Well, don't you just bring part of yourself to any role that you...
I have not figured that out. If you asked me to be Adam Colt in a film, sure, I could do that.
Oh, I guess that's what we're asking next. Yeah, Z-Fest, Adam Colt in your movie.
I know that sorry.
Also, the other thing, too, is I grew up really skinny. I graduated high school and I was 120 pounds.
Yes.
I was bullied and picked on as the little weakling all my high school days. So inside, I'm still that person, even though on the outside I'm pushing 300, And so it's really weird, being a little guy in a big body.
I act much taller than I am. I'm
There you go.
And it annoys people.
How does that work? How do you act taller than
Unearned confidence. There is no
okay.
CEO of a Fortune 500 company that is under, I believe, 5'9" or 5'10".
Wow.
And the presidents haven't been under 5'11". I think George W. Bush was the shortest one we've had in recent memory of like 5'11" or 5'10". And I don't care about those things, but I think about them.
But you have that
sometimes.
confidence of being over 5'11".
So do you wear inserts then?
Yeah.
Lifts
No.
and stuff?
I
They
do
got
not.
high shoes now. They got those fake shoes that bump you up 3 inches or whatever.
The thought of doing something like that.
It'll mess with his confidence. I think it'd be too much.
Yeah, I would be trying to please someone else instead of myself, and I think trying to please.
You've been pleasing yourself a lot.
The show is called Movie Baiters
Yeah.
with the Farx brothers, so we're baiting together, brother. You extended the runtimes of movies for a little while.
When did I do that?
2 years ago, you let longer movies play in 20.
How much longer?
You could go up to 10 minutes.
You could always go up to 10 minutes.
You can still go up to 10 minutes?
Absolutely.
Oh.
You just don't get to be in competition.
Okay.
Oh.
So that's it's always been a rule.
Oh, I suppose I did know that, but I've forgotten. I've been around half of Z-Fest. I've done 8 of them now.
Okay.
So I feel as though I don't know, should have done better at some point.
So if you want to be in competition, you have to be 7 minutes or under.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about competition, you just want a good screening in front of a packed house, go 10 minutes.
You tried to do a music thing one year. And,
Yep.
And I'm fully in support of that. I tried to get my band to submit their video, and I don't understand why they didn't. So, Katie, when you
done
hear
with
this,
that.
why?
Because that year was my epiphany year.
Oh.
I realized that people that make music videos are not the same people that make films.
That's a problem. That's not true.
They're two totally different groups of people.
Jason Schumacher would disagree with that.
Jason makes films, and he probably shoots music videos, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I'll
he
ask him that
doesn't
tomorrow.
write music, and he doesn't does he write music and make music videos for himself?
I don't know if he
I don't
writes
think
music.
so.
He doesn't.
So it's like a dichotomy. It's just this weird subculture. And then I realized, and I signed up for it because I didn't realize it had been going on forever. But there's not a Sound on Sound. Is it Sound on Sound? There's another festival that's been doing music videos for.
Oh, locally is the one in
Yeah.
Stillwater?
No, maybe, but I just
Sound Unseen?
Sound
No.
Unseen. That's it. Yeah,
That's out in Wisconsin, I believe.
there you go. But they've been running for almost 30, 40 years. I don't even know.
Oh, yeah.
But they are all about music videos
Okay,
and music films.
Can I tell you what really pisses me off about Minnesota and just everyone in general in this state and in this community of making movies? We're all in these fucking silos, and we're not trying to get out of it. And the year that you and I tried to do something about it, and then macroeconomic forces, came about. It's just it pisses me off all the time. Just how much I know there are people that just aren't talking to each other because supposedly we up in there here in the Midwest are so nice, but we're too nice to talk to each other is part of my problem. And now I'm on a podcast that my brother and I do.
Do you want to dive into your problem?
There you go.
No.
Well, okay, so that leads into a really funny thing that happened to me just a couple weeks ago.
Oh?
Yeah, so I called Jared Crooks. He's in Z-Fest this year. Right?
I do. I know him.
Yes, and he basically said to me, "Nobody's talking to me. Nobody wants to work with me." And I'm like, "Are you nuts? You're awesome." And he said, "Yeah, I just don't get it." And so I said, "Well, there's a thing going on tonight over, Film Festival, Nathan's Food Drive Film Festival."
Oh, yeah.
So I invited him out, and I'm like, "Yeah, you just got to go out and meet everybody and just break that wall and let them know that you are a super awesome person and you're available and you want to work with the local community."
He worked on a movie with my brother here.
Yeah,
There you
that
go.
Bigfoot one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great.
And
Yeah,
wait,
that's good.
but what happened after you go to?
Oh, he came out and he was like, "Yeah, you're right." It's like, I gotta, let people know. But I think even at the best of awards, he was still feeling a little isolated. And I mean, obviously, he's isolated by all stars.
I say hi to him. Now when I say, I was going to reach out to him anyways because he reached out to.
You should have him on the show.
Well, yeah, we're going to have him on the show. I mean, Jared, come on. And every time someone brings someone up, I'm like, hey, come on, because getting guests and booking them, that's the real challenge. I know that he's been making movies for 15 years. He reached out to JK after we made our last Kick Punch movie, and the problem was that was our last Kick Punch movie, and he was like, hey, I'd love to be a fight coordinator. And I was like, man, I don't like kisses or punches at this point because it's just too much work.
Yeah.
You got to be too careful and figure too much stuff out, and honestly, the last 2 years, I've just kind of been phoning it in personally.
Did you watch his film on Amazon?
The Christmas one.
Yep, the big gift.
Yes, where he does the martial arts moves and saves the gift. And yeah, I haven't watched the whole thing, but I will, Jared. I will. We can talk about that.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's
that's a nice way to say, because I know that's a thing.
No, I mean I think it's going to be in probably my top 15 Christmas movies. It's not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's a Christmas movie, but I assume he made it on a budget of some kind. But
oh, yeah.
Just because you're on a budget.
Crazy low budget, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's so talented, he does all the work himself, all the sound design, all the sound special effects, all the cinematography, he just does it all himself.
Yeah. And this is not a criticism of him or anyone that does that, but to me, the spirit of the festival and festivals in general is to try and collaborate and up your game and do different things. And partially for me and again, this is not me commenting on him because I felt bad that he reached out to me 4 years, not me, but the avatar that is the group of my brother and
JK Productions.
Yes, thank you. You're in the middle of a JK production right now. The podcast. We have podcasts, features, and shorts. The shorts come to your festival. I just didn't want to make Kick Punch movies at that moment.
Right.
And because it takes a lot more work. The collaboration thing is, I guess, where I was going, is that there used to be more, and I still think it was a challenge.
Yeah, and I think I would really like to say to everyone listening, please, let's do less of the one-man films. Let's do less of the same team's going to make 5 films, because that does affect the economics of the festival. It's like if you got a 20-person team and 5 different teams are making films, that's 100 people. But if you got 20 people making 5 films, that's still just 20 people, and we need the 100 people. To make the festival. If we drop down to one-man teams, the festival would implode.
I guess what might be even cooler is if you had 30 people. And 15 of them made one movie, and then a different 15 made another movie, and you're still crossing over. And 1 year I was involved in 4 or 5 movies, but only 3 were produced by our organization, and then I AD'd on somebody else's who was going to direct one of ours, and then Nick, former Farx returning champion, did DPing on one. We try to work with other people. Kirk was on 4 of the top 15 movies as a sound person. Now maybe that's a little bit too much saturation.
I think it's a lot easier to work as someone below the line than it is to be like a producer on 5 different short films.
There is advantage in specialization and generalization and knowing which you are in any situation. I love being a specialist on somebody else's thing and going, that's not my decision. I even heard you talking on, I can't remember which podcast I listened to, where you're like, well, I think Vanessa worked on Surrogate. And I was like, yes, she did work on Surrogate as the intimacy coordinator, because I reached out to her knowing she might bump on the material that had been proposed to me and I knew would evolve, and thought that if I added her to the stew, the material would evolve faster. And I thought she brought her best and everyone else brought their best, and then that helped all sides of the equation. And I'm more interested in the alchemy of 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or 5.
Yes, and that is the end goal. If everyone can get to that, that's awesome. But obviously, if you're alone and people don't want to work with you, go ahead and still make films.
Now, I'm gonna send Jared a message today.
You should.
Well, it's funny because he works with guys I used to work with, who I had a very a heartening conversation at Best of awards where I was totally in the room listening to the awards. I hadn't been checking which ones I had to pay attention for and when I could go out over to the bar with Jimmy Keebs. But I was at the bar with Jimmy Keebs and reconnected with an old partner on, stuff. And he was like, "Oh man, I've missed you." And I was like, "Oh, I thought you were mad at me." And he wasn't, which was nice to hear.
There you go.
And so, just connecting over other stuff, because this year we did a boxing movie, and being able to talk to people that I haven't talked to in a year or two about just boxing was nice.
Very nice. Do you box?
I don't, I'm not going to do Golden Gloves. I've been doing sparring a little bit. I was going to go sparring today, but I had 9 to 5 work commitments, which got in the way. But I've been going to the same boxing gym for about 10 years.
There you go.
Yes, as just taking classes.
I think I'm allergic to the gym.
You go and stay in the woods for 30 days at a time. You worked with Bert Kreischer, the machine.
Yes.
How did you and Bert get to know each other? Can you call him still?
I never had his number. Long story short, I'll make it as short as I can. I had an idea for a dating show.
Yeah.
And my buddy Jim at Conduit Sound.
You know Jim at Conduit Sound?
Oh, yeah.
I just met him recently. Arthur Hay works for him, or works with him.
Yeah, so Jim and I have been friends way before Conduit Sound.
I met his dad.
Yeah, his dad recorded at my studio in the 80s.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, anyways.
Time exists.
I met Jim in the early 2000s. We worked on my first film together, which was called Skids. 5 kids. It was Skids.
Oh,
yeah,
clever.
Yeah, and it was a kind of a Seinfeld-ish thing where there was a crazy neighbor, and Jim was the crazy neighbor.
Was S a 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Continue, please.
5 kids, Skids.
You said 5 kids, Skids. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. So Jim was the main character of that show. And I got him, involved. And he turns out that he was a student at Hennepin Technical College for audio, and I used to teach out there. So that was another connection that we had. And then I found out that his dad had come to my studio back in the 80s when I was recording Lavox, So that was another weird connection there. And so, anyways, and Jim and I opened our studios together back in 2009, I think. And so Conduit Sound opened with Johnny Idol together. And then he moved to the back after the landlord made him move and stuff like that. Anyways.
You met Bert Kreischer through Jim.
So I had a crazy dating show idea, and Jim was the main character, right? And so I was going to put Jim on 24 dates in 24 hours.
Whoa, all right.
Yeah. And so he had to be, and we literally we pulled it off. I don't know how we pulled it off, but we had a boating date in Stillwater. We had a cave date in Stillwater. We had a trampoline date at the Mall of America. We had, a Como Zoo date.
There were trampolines at the Mall of America?
Yeah, there was the spring, you got the harnesses and you bounced in the harness tramps and stuff.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, so we had 24 crazy dates. The first date was the wake up date. And we drove the girl to Jim's house, and she watched him take a shower. Wow. That was the wake-up date.
It's a very
watched him take
date.
could she see his bits?
If she looked, I'm sure she might have seen his bits.
I see.
So we did that, and it turned out great, okay? So my brother, who was working with Louis Anderson at the time, said, "Send me the tapes. We have a production company here. We're looking for new material, new shows." So I sent the tapes off to him, and I didn't hear anything for 30 days, didn't hear anything 60 days. And I said, "Dude, I got everyone in Minnesota waiting for the show to come out. Send me the tapes back. You have the original copy, right, of everything. I don't have anything."
Always make a copy, kids.
Yeah, I know. Always make a copy. I didn't have time to copy 60 tapes.
Yeah.
So I put all 60 tapes in the mail. It was shot on 2 cameras for 24 hours straight, And then we had interviews after each date as well. Right. So, yeah, it was a lot of footage. So I sent it all off, and they didn't even watch it. Wow. And then I said, "I want it back now."
Yeah.
And then they watched it, and they're like, "This is really good. We got something here." And they're like, "Well, give us the footage." And I'm like, "I'm not going to give you the footage. It costs me a lot of money. I will sell you the footage,
right? Yeah.
But I'm not going to give you the footage." And they're like, "Well, the production company wants to own the footage." And I'm like, "Well, make me an offer." And they're like, they would rather shoot it themselves. So then they wanted to shoot it in LA, right? I said, "Jim, I'm going to fly out. I'm going to be part of the shoot. I'm going to watch the shoot happen." And, you can come out with me since you were like the main guy in the original one. Well, their actor failed.
Oh, no.
So Jim stepped in and did the LA shoot as well.
Nice.
And he was ready for it, you know. So, and having done 24 dates already, now he's done 48 dates in 48 hours. And they had the same problems we had getting girls and stuff like that. So they had
women, ladies.
Ladies, yes. All females
Right.
of the opposite gender.
You put that in script description, male, female.
Yes.
Sorry, that was a conversation my brother and I had earlier today with our writing partner.
Yeah, it's tricky today. But so the point is that they had to hire their secretaries and their receptionists and stuff as actresses. Because they didn't have enough people. Because there's 24 people they needed for this pilot.
Yeah.
Right? Low budget pilot. And we had kind of do the same thing. So we had people's cousins and, we pulled in anybody we could. We had about, half of the dates were from the internet, and the other half were people we had to just pull in.
Right, people you knew.
Yeah. But anyways, we pulled it off, and it turns out Bert was available to shoot it, and Louis talked him into doing it.
Oh, Louis knew Bert from the club back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was way before the machine.
Yeah, he wasn't taking his shirt off then.
Yeah. Well, he did take his shirt off in our thing.
Yes.
If you watch he got in a Speedo and he was in the hot tub date. He came in as the waiter. So his shtick was he was the wingman. Yes. And he would constantly tell him, what to do and whatever. But the weird part about the show is Jim had just met a girl. So he just had a girlfriend. And she's like, don't kiss anybody.
Yeah.
Don't cheat on me. And he's like, well, I'm on this dating show. And so Bert was going nuts because Jim wouldn't go further with any of the girls, even though there was a couple connections. You know what I'm saying? And so it was
sparks a moment of heat.
It was awkward. It was a very awkward situation. So
awkward heat.
So they loved it. We cut it. The guys who did Cash Cab, were in negotiations to do it. NBC was gonna pick it up. MTV was gonna pick it up. We had like 3 or 4 times where it was like this close to being a done deal, and I never got it signed. So
that's how Bert Kreischer.
Yeah, he was in my show. I got to hang out with him for 24 hours.
What gets under your skin, Adam? And I'm just gonna go for a full interview here now.
Very, very little. I'm a pretty happy guy.
What? No, I mean, related to Z-Fest, so people can avoid these things in the future, because potentially people who might do Z-Fest in the future who haven't before and couldn't guess at, like I could guess at what gets under your skin, but
I don't mind questions at all. That doesn't bother me. I think it's when people get needy. Needy. That gets a little tiresome. And it's like they constantly, instead of looking at the website or looking at the task system, they just call me for an easy answer. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, then I just look it up where it's printed and I send them a link to, what's going on. And I'm like, you could have done that.
Yeah, they're treating you like Google.
Yeah, exactly. I become
treating you like AI.
Yeah, and it's like I'm so easy to talk to that it's like they want to lean on me to get the easy answers.
Right.
And it's like, when are tickets available? Well, they're on the website. What's the control element? Well, it's on the website.
So can I address the doo-doo I stepped in with you this week? Not with you, but when I started my AI conversation 2 days ago, I had been hearing an unhealthy conversation going on in the background. And my thought always is that, well, if I'm hearing it, I can't imagine what Adam is hearing.
Oh, I got an earful the night of. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I decided right away it is a very valid conversation. And I was actually in the middle of organizing a behind-the-scenes council to start talking about it, but you kind of...
A council of reeds?
Yeah, council of reeds.
Well, so my thought was, if there's an unhealthy conversation going on in the background, the only thing that can disinfect that is sunlight. So if I'm the asshole that brings it to the foreground, like people who have made their decision about who I am as a person have already made that decision. And the young kids, I've been finding them to be pretty cool. Like the folks that I see as like a decade and a half younger than me, who are out there grinding, I love them, and I don't want anyone's effort and emotions or anything to be diminished. And I know you understand, because you made good arguments about like when digital video came out, all these guys who used to, process film lost their job. Oops, the horse and buggy makes it so maybe you don't need to walk anymore. And then cars, oh no. But how do we keep from artist theft with copywritten material?
Yeah, I think though, I think what we're getting down to with that conversation is basically if you use AI generatively, don't submit it as original work. If you use AI as supportively, as like an EQ correction for a track that's already been recorded, or just something where it's processing something you've done, then it's still your work. You're just enhancing it. I think that's okay. But if you're generating work with it, then we need to do that. We all need to explore these new tools and the boundaries and what can it do and how can it help us. But at the same time, don't try to take somebody else's award away that did the work themselves.
Sure. And like I told you, this podcast used to funny generate images to go along with. But the argument was made by someone we were doing business with, and I don't think he'll care, Tapan Sharma. He was a comedian we were using on live shows, and he's been on the show. Or this show, and he was like, nah, I just can't, because like if it ever makes money, it would
Who owns the copyright?
Who owns the copyright of that image? So, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing we're going to go back and change every thumbnail that we auto-generated, but it got us to a better answer, which is taking pictures for the show so people know the show exists and real people are on it. And
I had the same problem, and I kind of mentioned it on the thread, but I had a buddy called me up and said, I need a theme song for my podcast. And I'm like, great, how much you got?
Yeah.
And he's like, I got nothing. And I'm like, then you're going to get nothing. And he's like, well, what about AI? And I'm like, what about AI? And I looked into it, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it turns out and I generated a really great song for him before I signed up for it, just as on the free version. And he wanted to use it. And then I looked into it. I'm like, oh, you need to sign up and pay for it before you own the copyright, and now I did. I paid for a year. And so I've been having a lot of fun generating a lot of tracks.
Yeah, and it's kind of like stock music. You had to like pay to use the stock music you were using for a certain time. Yeah. And I mean, it's different because like someone generated it and then put it in there.
Someone shot it and edited it down.
It's like sound effects too. You could, we've had the advantage of people who have access through different professional circumstances they're in to add to a Z-Fest film, because the economics of making a movie is difficult.
Yeah.
I saw something today that said that your average short is going to cost about $10K. The 50 movies that were in Z-Fest spent $500,000, to make the 50 movies. That would be astounding, wouldn't it? But at the same time, all these Jared Crooksons who were talking about him earlier, if he was charging himself, which he should do if he were to make a, let's say, $10,000 feature up north, he should charge the production that exists separately as an entity outside of him as an individual wage earner in the economy for every job he does. Editing, DP, sound effect guy, and like just write it as a line item into the budget, and then spend his $10,000 of his own money, go through UMFO, get 30 to 40% back using the incentives that exist today only if you work up in the Iron Range, and he'd have to live up there or have a mailing address up there. So maybe it wouldn't work for Jared, but if we had that in the whole state, how many more people could be generating things of value because there was an incentive to do so.
Absolutely.
I'm not asking you to answer that.
Yeah, no, because I don't produce films, I don't have access to that world. I display films.
You do.
I present them to the public.
How can people help Z-Fest? Veterans, new people, how can they help?
We need to find some people to start taking over.
Yeah.
Because I can't keep doing it alone every year.
Wait, you can do it completely alone every year?
Pretty much.
What are the job functions? Like, what is what are those 5 months you're spending? What are the different job functions? Kind of like we were just saying with Jared Crooks as an example. I hope you hear this episode, Jared, and let's have a beer,
Yeah, well, it kind of breaks down to the launch. So like launch the registration, make sure that the website's working for the payment system and that all the task systems are loaded and, everything's corrected and all the dates have been updated and stuff like that. So that it's a little tedious, but it's not too bad. And then once it's launched, it kind of rides until, we have to change everything for early bird and everything else. And then we have the kickoff. So that's kind of an event planner thing.
So you need some QA and an event planner.
Yeah, and a little bit of marketing would be great, and then setting up all the Facebook events and everything else like that. And so it's not incredibly painful. It's just there's a lot of things, and I think the hardest thing is that just having to build the award show, and I do pay somebody to do that. So we do get that done, but I have to go in and rewrite all the text and correct everything and stuff like that. So there's a lot of updating to do. We have a template. We have a really good template that we wash, rinse, and repeat year after year. But it does require a ton of updating every year.
And I hope this is validating in some way that the guy who I asked in the locker room at my gym to be in my movie came to the award show and was like, "Whoa, this is like a serious thing. What's going?" And he fought Muhammad Ali's grandson twice on ESPN. So like he's been a part of big things before. So to come and see what was going on. And I know that was John and Margie's idea to do like an Oscar style award show, but you're the one who figured out the technical.
No, they actually built the first award shows.
They built. What do you mean built?
They hired Conrad. Do you remember Conrad?
Conrad what?
He used to work he's a VFX guy. He used to work at Z Systems.
I'm sure I've met or seen him.
Yeah, and they hired Conrad to put together that show.
Okay.
And build all of those intros and outros and all that stuff. And so John and Margie were the brainchild of the award show. Because for me, it was like all about a good theatrical experience. I wanted to make sure the aspect ratios were right, the sound was right, the color was good, everyone's length was right. I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a great theatrical experience. And John and Margie said we need a good award show experience as well. And so they really birthed that whole thing. And then they it's so much work that they just said, you know what, we've got to focus on our business. We need you to take over. And I said, okay. They basically said, if you don't take over, it's going to shut down.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll take it over and we'll see how long I can keep it up. And I think it's been 3 years now since I've been doing it alone.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So SOS, we're sending it out to...
Yeah.
SOS?
Yeah, like, hey, this... Because...
What's that? Sinking, right?
Save our souls.
Save our souls.
I meant in the sense that, you're a person who's lived a full life. Not that it's over or anything, but you could get killed hunting Sasquatch, as you said.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or by a bear or anything, yeah.
Please don't. But I still think it would be like, honey, I'm not going to step up tomorrow. I have 2 very young children and making 1 movie a year. And then I, do stuff like you're at my house right now because I can do this nearby. And then I can write features with my brother, between when my kids get home and when I can meaningfully call it happy hour at work. So, my brother likes to end the interview segment asking the same question.
Who do you think we should have on the podcast?
Well, Jared Crooks, obviously.
That doesn't count. We said him earlier. Jared, come on.
I was thinking Becken too, but I forgot that he had already been on.
That's right. He told me to have Bill Boria on, and I've reached out to Bill.
Oh, you should have McDonald on. Brian McDonald. He's hilarious.
Yeah. Mr. Zafest.
Yeah. And then one of my all-time favorite people, although I don't know how much they like me, is Owen Royce.
Are you kidding me? Owen Royce? I love
Owen Royce.
I should reach out to him because he has been recommended before.
He's amazing. I just, I think he needs more love, and I try him as much love as I can, but he really is amazing.
Oh yeah, his last thing is like a half-hour pilot for Richard Nixon taking I can't remember, Jackie Gleason to go see an alien. So right up your alley.
Yeah.
The aliens, Bigfoots. You must have loved Michael Quinn's movie this year, the Bigfoot movie.
Oh yeah.
Did you tell them where to get the suit?
I did not. I had no idea. That I don't know anything about the films until they're turned in.
Sure.
Yeah. Fair.
Well, unless someone has to call you and go, "Hey, am I breaking the rules if I do this?"
Right. That is true. Yes.
And oh man, we should end it, but I'm still gonna get out there that I'm pissed. Alex's My Little Sunflower was compared to Surrogate. I'm not blaming you. Yeah. I know he put the hanger in longer, and you saw stuff drip off of it, and that's gross. But
yeah,
so in his defense, and I've been on his show, you've been on his show. He worked with a crew of over 50% females. there theoretically is consent. Not, I mean, that's the basic, but like
I think
input. It wasn't unconsidered. I'll put it that way.
I think I have a lot to say about that. But I think we're already going along.
Yeah, we'll cut this interview into 2 pieces, I imagine,
Okay.
and we'll still have the other 2 episodes. So
There you go.
sorry.
What's our next debate, Kyle?
We are with Nora Peterson, and we are talking about a movie from 1964, something about the Olympiad. Do you remember?
I didn't. That's why I turned it to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you in our next debate. Bye-bye. For more on JK Productions, find us on Instagram at JK Productions Team and on Facebook, JK Productions MN.